Said happy Monday, happy Tuesday. We had the Labor Day holiday, and this is sort of the unofficial beginning of hockey season because we're in September. Temperatures are starting to drop a little bit. Rookie tournaments are this weekend. Training camps are next week. So we're really going to start getting in the swing of things. And in that vein, we're going to start our team previews with the Anaheim Ducks today. Not an extensive team preview, but just looking back at what they, what they did last year and what they're doing this year, what they're potentially going to do, or what they have done over the summer and what they're going to do in the regular season this year. But we'll start off. Russ, you have something for the pre-show?
Yeah. So right now, as we speak, the Dallas Cowboys are negotiating with Ezekiel Elliott. That's a big truck that went by.
Wow.
With Ezekiel Elliott. And it's interesting because, he was in Mexico and he just flew back. And the season starts on Sunday, although there's a game on Thursday, which, again, I think is stupid. But whatever. I don't think people watch it like they think they're going to. But anyhow, getting through that. So Elliott has 2 years until he hits free agency, and he's already renegotiating this deal right now. Is he one of the top running backs in the game? Sure. He's top 3 probably. But the issue is, can you survive without him? And the answer is definitely yes. And so you kind of wonder where he is going to stop as far as his demands and how deep Jerry Jones is going to go. Because, again, this guy should have waited 2 years, but he's not. He held out. And now he's got the leverage at this point because he brought the Cowboys back to the table.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think they want him back, and I think that they're willing. I mean, 2 weeks ago they offered him the second highest paid running back salary in the league, and he said no. So I don't know how much they're going to budge off of that. And I think his name is Pollard, who's the backup running back. He runs for 100 yards. Ezekiel Elliott's leverage goes out the window. So, I don't know. I honestly, I like the stance of the LA Chargers, who basically told Melvin Gordon, go ahead and arrange your own trade because we're not buckling. That right. I like that. It's like, screw you. I mean, how about a contract means you're locked in just like the team is locked in. There's no renegotiation. You can negotiate when the contract is up, not before.
I mean, I'll go back with the old adage, when I had a 9-to-5 job, let's say first 3 months, right? I did a really good job, maybe even the first 6 months.
Right.
Like going in for a raise right away? No, because the boss would be like, that's what I hired you for. And in essence, this is what they paid Ezekiel Elliott for. They didn't give him he's not making piddly money. He's making good money. And so I kind of wonder what Peter's feeling is, because sometimes he chimes in for sports, but for negotiations like this, Peter, don't you feel like Elliott's got the edge now?
A little bit. To be honest, I haven't been paying too much attention with that. As a Seahawks fan, I've just been jumping up and down about Clowney. So I've been totally absent to other things. But I mean, based on what you just said, I think he does have a little bit. I mean, anyone dealing with Jerry Jones it's going to be a gong show anyways, because that's just the way the guy does things. And I would probably play hardball and use my leverage a ton too, because the issue there is, Dallas is the wealthiest team in the league.
Yeah,
but he's making $9 million. It's not like this guy's making like $2 million, and it's not like this is not entry level money here.
Yeah,
no, and I'm not privy to, obviously I won't be privy to any of the internal negotiations for the NFL CBA is coming up fairly soon. I know the NHL's is coming up. Well, it could come up next year based on what the decision the players make before September 15th. But how about, and I realize that the NFL is the only major sport that has non-guaranteed contracts, but how about the concept of if you sign a contract, there is no renegotiation of that contract during the life of the deal. You have to stick to it. We have to stick to it. If you want a better deal, then negotiate one when the deal is up. Not this crap that 2 years in, you get to say, oh, I had a great year. How about giving me more money? No, well, wait until you get a new deal.
Or fire your agent.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. We will continue with our series of overrated and underrateds. We'll be brief on this one, but it's, until we really get into camp and the new picking up, I think it's interesting. We've had some good feedback on it. We've talked about the Beatles. We talked Stones. We talked Led Zeppelin. We're going with the rock classics here, and we're going with the Who. It was just by happenstance. I know Jan Levine, who's been the guest on our show many times, just saw the Who in New York City, and I guess they're playing in Toronto either tonight or tomorrow night. But Who are one of my favorite bands. But even one of my favorite bands, they have songs that I think are well overrated or just I don't understand. And I'll go first for the overrated. I love Tommy. I love the rock opera Tommy. But the song Pinball Wizard has never been that. It's a good song. But honestly, I think the cover by Elton John is better than the original.
I think that's fair. I do, but the guitar
and
whenever is really good.
Yeah, and whenever a cover is better than the original, then I consider the original vastly overrated. It's never been. One thing is, I think I heard the Elton John version before I heard the original version, and I automatically just sort of like attached myself to that one. I just think it's a better constructed song than Elton John.
The only argument I would have against it is the beginning guitar riffs on that are iconic. And so
yes, I
don't know if I could call something like that overrated based on the fact that work is so good. So I can't agree with you on that.
Okay, well, to each his own. Peter, what is your most overrated Who song?
I like them, but they're overrated because you hear them all the time. But Won't Get Fooled Again and Who Are You? Just they're overplayed. CSI didn't really hurt the thing. I mean, Who Are You is a really interesting song if you don't know the background, because it was Pete Townsend sort of writing a song, kind of sticking it back to Johnny Rotten of the Sex Pistols, and that's what that song's about. It's kind of interesting. Like he was calling them dinosaurs and stuff, and that was his response, which is kind of cool. But yeah, those are my two overrated ones.
No, that is cool. I didn't know that. I mean, I believe that was off the last album that Keith Moon was on too.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the Who to F for You thing was a big deal because it wouldn't play on some radio stations and some did play it.
Yes.
And so they had to have two versions of it. So I liked it for that. I think it's a good song. We Won't Get Fooled Again, I don't feel like is overplayed. I think that is their anthem. I think that is, one of their great songs. And so I don't feel like it's overplayed, but of course on the radio, sure, I can't argue with it.
I was surprised to hear from Jan that they do that acoustic now, which is tough to undo.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't see it when it was acoustic. I might not have been happy about that.
Yeah, I don't think I was. Because it's a great song and it's got that sort of sequencer, that the section at the end that's phenomenal.
It won't have that same oomph if it's
exactly. Now I consciously was looking at a song that is not
overrated, Mike.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you. Okay, go ahead.
Oh yeah.
That's what happens when you slam my overrated there.
And you can slam mine. It's going to be Baba O'Reilly because it was always a good song. It was never a great song. The beginning with the keyboards is okay. It sounds good, but you know what? It got way overplayed, and then TV overplayed it, and then it became like the only Who song kids knew, and they have a lot better songs than that.
Yeah, and even back when I was younger, it was misnamed by people because they couldn't remember Baba O'Reilly. They always called it Teenage Wasteland, correct. Which, I mean, I understand it, but because Baba O'Reilly is not said in the lyrics.
No.
So, but still, you should know it if it's one of your favorite songs. Underrated, I consciously looked for something that was not a hit, just to draw more attention to it. And my most underrated was from Quadrophenia, a song called Bellboy.
That's a great song.
Which is phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, first of all, Quadrophenia is another rock opera, but it doesn't get as much acclaim as Tommy. But the songs on that, Love Rain or Me, The Real Me, they're just fantastic. But Bellboy, instrumentally, it's great, and it also has Keith Moon singing a sizable portion of the lyrics. And he doesn't have a great voice, but it sounds great. It's just a
No, but
great
it's
song.
accurate. Like for the hotel industry, it was accurate then, and it's accurate now. That's what I like about it.
Right. Peter, Russ, what's your underrated?
All right.
You go, Russ.
Interestingly enough, I do love The Real Me, and that came close because I just love the whole Quadrophenia album. I do. But I'm going to go with Bargain, and I feel like that one is really, really underrated. I think it's off of Who's Next. Maybe, maybe not. But I really think that one is one of those deeper cuts that if you play it, you realize, yeah, you know what? Everything about that song's really strong.
Yeah, that's a good one. So I have two, because I can't do things in solo, but both from the Quadrophenia. Well, no, actually, one from the Quadrophenia album. I changed it because I had The Real Me on there, but I changed it because I forgot, and I had to go back. Look, I was thinking of a song and I couldn't remember what it was, but I knew it was on Quadrophenia, and that was Drowned. Love the piano intro on there. Drowned is fantastic. And another favorite song is Sparks. Now, you're probably Sparks. It's an incredible instrumental.
Yeah.
And it's complex. It's thrashy. It's got prog rock kind of elements to it. It's awesome. I highly recommend. If you haven't heard it, go listen to it. It's really good.
I do have a good.
That one I don't know much, so I'll definitely. And
I remember
sort of an honorable.
It's on Tommy. Sorry, I had to remember what album it's on.
Okay, I probably know it and just don't know the name of it.
Yeah,
it's like
I think that is the case, Mike. But what I was going to say though, a good album to get. They have the Quadrophenia demo tapes, and I highly recommend it because some of those songs that Townsend wrote, on that demo, he's singing them, right? Mm-hmm. I gotta say, a couple of them, he probably does a better job than Daltrey.
I actually think I like the Love, Rain or Me on the demos than I like the production value. Obviously, is much better on the album,
right?
But Townsend's got that really high pitched voice that sometimes it's better than. I mean, Daltrey could hit big notes too, but Townsend had a very unique voice, and sometimes there's just better attuned to certain songs. The other honorable mention for me was getting in tune, which is a great.
Getting in Tune's a real good one.
Yeah. But
interesting enough. Just because you're talking about this, I had to look up. I couldn't remember what Sparks on. I realized Tommy, but there's a 2013 live disc that was released of Tommy.
I have that. It's good.
And most of it was recorded at the Capitol Theater in Ottawa in 1969. Ooh. And then a few songs from the Swansea Football Club in June 76. What an incredible sort of 7-year gap to kind of pull an album together. Like, it's interesting.
I have to say, and
it's really good too.
And this will be the last thing. I have to say, I remember it was the early 90s, maybe 92, 93, where they did, I think it was the 25th anniversary, or close to 25th anniversary of Tommy. And they did a star-studded concert with, Phil Collins played Uncle Ernie, and Patti LaBelle, and I think Billy Idol. And one of them was Steve Winwood, and Steve Winwood played the Hawker, played the Eric Clapton character from the movie Tommy. And Steve Winwood is not known as a phenomenal guitar player. He's a very tasty guitar player. He was incredible in this video. It's on YouTube. You should check this out. I mean, I'm a big Steve Winwood fan, and he was friendly with the Who because I think they're from the same area of England, and it was just great. So there's so much great stuff.
Well, that first Winwood solo album, he played every instrument.
Yes.
Yeah, so he is really talented, no doubt.
Very, very talented. Okay, let's get started. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Tuesday, September 3rd, 2019.
I'm Peter Tessier in breezy Winnipeg.
Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
Not as breezy as Florida. And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. We hope everybody is safe down in Florida with the Hurricane Dorian bearing down on them. All right, we'll start with the latest news and the sort of retirement category. First, the one that we know for sure is retired, because Nicholas Kronwall came out today, and the Detroit Red Wings tweeted out that Kronwall has retired and will be joining the Red Wings organization as a advisor to General Manager Steve Yzerman. So that answers the question, Russ, of whether Kronwall was going to come back. I think it basically looks as if they told him, yeah, you could come back, but you're probably not going to get a primary role. You maybe even be a seventh defenseman, and that kind of situation where they want to find out about some of their young kids like Chalowski and Roenick, and maybe he wouldn't get the ice time. And he wanted to spend his entire career with the Red Wings, so he went that way.
Yeah, I mean, in a skating league, he wasn't going to last. And last year was pretty valiant that he even got through it. The team's not going to go very far. Even if you love the sport, better to walk away and take the good job. Like, you've had your years. He was a really good defenseman, really rock solid, tough. We all remember hits like on Marty Havlat and guys he's destroyed over the years. He's not a Hall of Famer, but like as a Red Wing, he's like a Red Wings all-timer. And that's why it's smart for Yzerman to keep him around. He definitely could help other defensemen. Good move. I'm happy to see him go out this way.
Peter?
Yeah, it's nothing wrong with how it all ended. I mean, it's time. Like, that's really what it is. It's time. And, he gets to stay with the organization. I agree with what Russ said. I mean, I don't know if there's any more to add to this. Like, what more was Kronwall doing out on the ice that was going to bring anyone value? And
he didn't sign a one-day contract. Thankfully.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because he spent his entire career. If he had gone someplace else at the trade deadline, he probably would have signed the 1 year or the 1 day contract, Russ. Which I agree, it's sort of lame, but it is what it is. Now, the other news that happened yesterday, it's up for interpretation, but Justin Williams came out and basically says, "I'm going to take a break." He didn't say I'm retiring. He said, "I'm going to take a break," which would lead me to believe, and maybe I'm off base here, but it would lead me to believe that he's leaving it open to joining another team other than the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, he was their captain last year. He scored 20 goals, 50 points. He had a good year. It looked like he still had something left in the tank. We know what has happened in terms of other players and other people who have worked for the Carolina organization. My first conclusion here, Russ, was that Dundon got cheap again and didn't want to give Williams the kind of money that he got last year on his last contract. So this is his way of keeping his options open. Maybe he doesn't want to retire. Maybe he's going to wait it out and miss training camp and miss a month or so and get a little extra rest because he's an older player. But I don't think it's a guarantee he's going back to the Hurricanes.
I don't know. I mean, he should learn from Ross Geller. I mean, it didn't work out with the English chick when he and Rachel were on a break, and it's going to be the same thing here with Justin Williams for sure.
Yeah, but she was hot, though. The English girl was hot.
But it wasn't long-lasting, Mike. But anyhow, Justin Williams did better than I thought he would last year. What I think is happening here now, and I think he was probably the fire starter in them with the post-game shenanigans, all of that. And he enjoyed that. I think what happened after that is the Hurricanes got carried away with themselves as far as how good they thought they were and are going to be. And I think they're improved, but not in every area. And I do think they didn't offer him what he was looking for. And I think he sort of looked at that and probably said, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if I want to go anywhere else. So now maybe he just says, you know what? If this is what you're giving me, I'd rather not play. And I don't think he's doing it to get a better negotiating deal. And I do think there's something to him not being 100% sure, because we've seen athletes do that. But certainly Don Waddell didn't go out of his way to make sure he was on the opening day roster. Matter of fact, the quote that he gave was kind of like, well, we were preparing to do this without him. And it's like, yeah, except he's one of your two best players on the team.
Right.
Or most valuable. And so it's easy to say that you were planning on this without him, but not having him hurts. And so I just don't feel like Carolina did enough to make him want to cross over that threshold from either being retired or partially retired to playing. And I don't feel like they did that. Unless
my memory is faulty, Peter, Justin Williams is the guy who set an overtime winner against Washington. This guy was a valuable player, and he was their captain. So, I mean, if they didn't make him feel like he was wanted, or by him, and honestly, if you don't offer him good money on a 1-year contract, I think you're disrespecting the guy. I have a feeling this is sort of like a Matt Sundin situation with Vancouver, where he sits out, a couple months, and then, if there's a team in trouble, or if there's a team that he thinks he can win another Stanley Cup with, that he signs on then. I don't think he's closing the door.
No, it's really curious. That's for sure. And is it a case of him and the Hurricanes not finding the right deal? And, whether it be term or whether it be dollar value, like per year, that's the tricky one. There's really no insight into what it is. It's just a lot of guessing. The one thing that Teemu Selanne said after the lockout of 2004-2005 was he said he never could have continued playing at a high level if he didn't have that year off. And I think for some of these guys, particularly like a playoff warrior like Williams and what he does, the grind is incredible and it takes its toll on the body. And he, let's take it as a face value thing. And Williams is sort of sitting here going, I'm not sure this is the place I want to be, but I'm not sure where I want to be. So I'm going to just take this time, stay in shape, let the body heal a bit and see what happens and see if anyone comes calling. Right. It might make sense just for him from a longevity thing. The problem is the difference between, say, what Selanne did and what Sundin did was everyone had a year off, right? They were all done. All the players were in the same boat. So if they came back in January, if a deal had been hammered out in late 2004, early 2005, they were all coming in the same kind of condition, basically.
Right.
And then they started the next year coming back to normal. Williams then is now going to have to come in and catch up, just like Sundin did. And Sundin was not ready. He was old. He's a physical specimen in terms of his size and everything, but he just couldn't play at that speed. And it was pretty obvious. And it took him like about 2 months to get close to game speed, but he never really got there. So, and I don't, and that's the risk for Justin Williams. And I don't know if that's the right risk to be taking.
So looking at the cap, they only have $2.495 million in cap space. So last year he made 4.5. Is it possible they said, hey, we can give you 2.5, but we don't have 4.5?
Right. I think that's what they did. And that's that. Then, again, knowing the MO of the Hurricanes from this, this offseason with defections, with trades of player, I wouldn't doubt that was where they went. And if that's the case, I would, if I was Justin Williams, based on what he did for them and what kind of leadership he provided them, that I was being disrespected if they offered him less. It's like, okay, well, I should get a raise based on what I did last year, and you're going to offer me a pay cut of 50%? Screw you.
Yeah, because right now with the way they're constructed, he'd be their 5th highest paid forward, which is probably okay, but in his mind may not be. And like if you put him up next to Nito Niederreiter, who's making 5.2, Justin Williams is probably thinking, you got to pay me at least what he's getting.
Now, and
I think that is a problem. I think it's the salary issue. I do.
Well, and we'll preview Carolina in the next week or so. But, we know that they added Dzingel as a free agent. I know Eric Halla was new. That Neckish is going to probably make the team this year. So there are players that they've brought in that can make up the difference for Williams. But I look at this team and I think in terms of repeating as a playoff team, I think they're in trouble.
Well, it doesn't help their chances. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and Peter, the one thing, and then we'll move on. But the one thing I look at their team, and I think the absence of Williams is going to hurt. But I keep going back to their goaltending. Their goaltending went from Mrazek and McElhinney, and McElhinney had the best year of his career, to Mrazek and James Reimer, who has not had a good year in 3 years.
I agree. That's the trouble spot right there. Like, what's between the pipes for the Hurricanes is a total question mark right now.
Yeah, it's about 6.6 million dollars of question mark. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Now, some interesting. We're going to hear more of these probably in the next week as we work up to training camp. Lance Boma signed a PTO with the LA Kings. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to make the LA Kings, but he played in the KHL last year. This was the interesting thing. Last week, Jason Pominville was skating in Buffalo with some of his former Sabre teammates. He supposedly was amenable to, coming back to the Sabres, wanted to, but there's a question of whether the Sabres were interested. Well, Eric Engels, former hockey buzzer, now at Sportsnet, reported that Pominville and that the Montreal Canadiens are considering bringing in Pominville. I don't know if that's on a 1-year deal or if it's on a PTO. They've got plenty of cap space, so they could, and I think they have plenty of contracts under 50. So it probably would be a straight deal rather than him, going on a PTO with the Sabres, which I think would be a bit of an insult. But,
yeah, I don't think he's going to do that.
Yeah, but Montreal's got the cap space, and Pominville scored 16 goals last year. So I mean, it would not be a bad signing.
I don't know if
Peter,
it. That's the thing. I don't know if they need it.
Well, I don't know. I don't think they have enough scoring.
Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Hold on. So
okay,
Cole Caulfield over the weekend had 4 goals. So for the people that are worried about Cole Caulfield scoring, don't worry about it. He's going to score his entire career. So
right.
At the end of this season, however far Wisconsin goes, Montreal will probably get Cole Caulfield this year with the big club at the end of that season. So whatever you're worried about lack of scoring, he could be a shot in the arm late in the year.
Yeah, but do you think that that organization wants to put him at 19 years old into the NHL?
Let's put it this way. If he scores 40 goals in college hockey, which hasn't happened in a very long time, since the mid-90s, something like that, he's going to get fined and he's going to get put in there. Yes.
Right. Now, Peter, I mean, I have nothing, especially when they have openings. I would say that the Canadiens have openings. Now, they struck out on Aho. The free agent offer sheet didn't work. And I'm not saying that Pominville is anywhere close to being as an impact move as bringing in Aho, but there is a need there for sort of support scoring. And he did score 16 goals last year. I think he still has something left. I know a lot of there was a sort of an analytical analysis of Pominville that said that his numbers were really good last year, and they were surprised that the Sabres didn't opt to bring him back instead of bringing guys like Zemgus Girgensson or Johan Larsson. So if the Canadiens do this, I think it would be a smart move.
Yeah, I think it would. The thing about Pominville is he's, he may be older and he may not be doing what people have sort of traditionally expected of him, but he's doing things that are a little harder to notice with the eyes, and he's helping teams in a way that maybe you can't quite see. And that's the smart play that teams have to make now. Not paying too much, finding sort of these areas where they can get players on the ice that don't hurt them, and maybe provide a little boost in areas that they need a boost in and are flying under the radar. This is the stuff that data really has its value in, and you should be using it to find these kinds of deals. I mean, it's easy to say, well, you got to get a Mitch Marner or a Rantanen. We can all figure that out. We don't need data to do that, but we do need it to find these other things. And there's certainly enough data and some chalk out there that Pominville is that kind of player that's worth taking a run at.
I guess the mailman is there, right, Russ?
I don't know who it is.
Yeah, someone.
I think she's calmed down.
Yeah, either that or Kaya really agrees with Peter's point on what he was just talking about.
Now, you guys like Peter?
Yes. Well.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Then the whole RFA situation, and it's nice now that a lot of the insiders are back from their summer vacations. We got a bunch of missives from Pierre LeBrun and Bob McKenzie and a few others regarding some of the RFA situations, which are completely unresolved. And
one of them signed, Mike. One of the RFAs signed.
Yeah, who?
Ivan Barbashev.
We're talking about the big ones.
Well, hold on, though. But I do want to mention this because if you want to know why Patrick Maroon didn't get offered his job, it's because Ivan Barbashev sucked up his money, which is probably fair because Barbashev really did come on for them last year, can play that fourth-line role, is faster, and has more skill.
Oh, no. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think and Barbashev impressed me in the playoffs. I mean, I did not think that Barbashev was as physical a player as he ended up playing in the playoffs. You know, he got suspended for a game for a hit, which I would never thought
he did.
A guy like Barbashev would ever be suspended for a hit. But no, the interesting thing was that Pierre LeBrun talked with Kyle Dubas regarding the Marner situation, and there were a couple other scenarios out there with McAvoy, and we have like 10 or 11 restricted free agents, and the general consensus from all of the insiders is nothing is going on. No, basically it's Peter. Right now, it seems like it's stalemate. They're staring down and they're waiting for one side to break. And this, it's not one situation. It's 10. It's 11.
Yeah.
Players.
None of these guys are going to camp.
No, none of them. And it's going to be really fascinating to see which team or which player sort of decides, I've had enough. We need to get this done.
And I'll even go one further.
I mean, this is just unprecedented.
Well, it's not.
It's so weird.
No. You know what, though? It's no longer weird to me. I saw Jonathan Taves stoke the fires the other day, and I think players are taking his lead, and I think he is misguided because the NHL basically comes out and says, hey, we're not going to act on anything with the lockout right now. And the PA, you hear, well, we're going to look at it. And then you see Taves is like, yeah, we're going to take like every minute up until the deadline. And it's like, it was a very negative kind of quote that I saw that it's just like, it just seemed unnecessary for the climate right now. Didn't that seem like
Russ, I agree with you. And I think what is even harder on that is that it's coming from one of the highest paid players in the game.
Right.
That's the part that I think is going to be hard for some fans to hear is that, well, you're on your second deal that's $100 million. Your second deal, this one's $100 million. The last one was like $40 million,
right?
Or $36 million. Like I said, in his career, he's going to basically extract close to $150 million from the NHL in terms of salary. If you've got an escrow, it's not fun to have a $10 million annual paycheck and have to put $2.5 million in escrow, not knowing where it goes and stuff.
Right.
Understandable, but this point in time, you could just say for the rest, for players like myself, I've had a very well compensated career. We want to look at this for everyone to make sure it makes sense for all salary ranges. That's all he had to say was consider the guys in the bottom who are making $650,000 in your membership, right? That's the message that should be said. We need to look at it so this makes sense for all members, not just how I feel because I've got 2.5 billion sitting in escrow every year.
Right, and
that's the PR issue, and you want players to talk. You want things. This is the double-edged sword, right? We want players to speak their mind, give us something to talk about, understand what they're thinking and everything. And then when we do, we criticize them for it because it might not be the way we want to say it. So in that case, like, I appreciate you coming out and saying that, Jonathan. That's awesome. But, from a bigger picture, make it about everyone, not just what you think.
Right. And honestly, I think until we get to September 15th and find out what the players are going to do, I mean, I was a little surprised that the NHL just sort of, oh, by the way, I expected them to keep what was going on, because I don't think they have any complaints with the current CBA. I think there's things they'd like to tweak, but they're not gonna opt out early, and they're gonna put the onus on the players. And if the players take the bait and say we're gonna walk away or we're gonna start negotiating on a new deal, I think the owners have already won half the PR battle. And we know the PR battle means something. If the players say, okay, we have problems here, and I know negotiations have been going on during the summer that's been sort of under the radar, but if they say, okay, we have problems and we're going to opt out, I think the players start behind the 8 ball immediately in this situation.
Yeah, I do too. I just thought it was ill-timed, and now's not the time to make a stand. Now is actually the time that, at least if nothing else, like you said, just give something that says, yeah, we're going to talk to everybody. There's a lot of players here, and we'll get back to them. This way it was sort of like, I don't know, it just came off as a little angry.
Yeah. Now, just a couple notes on the RFAs, and then we'll get into our team preview of the Ducks. I mentioned Pierre LeBrun talking to Kyle Dubas, and apparently he asked him regarding any potential interest via trade, teams contacting the Leafs, and Dubas sort of pushed it off, saying, we're not interested in trading Mitch Marner. We see him as a long-time solution for the Leafs, blah, blah, blah. The same essential boilerplate talk that has been going on. But the question is, at what point does Dubas start to listen to potential offers? I don't think it would be until it gets into the season. Once the season starts and Marner is still at an impasse with the Leafs, I don't think that they're going to even give a second thought to potentially trading him. But once the season starts and it goes down the road of a Nylander again, Nylander situation again, then I think the Leafs will start saying, okay, we have to at least check the options here and see what we could get. I don't think they want to trade him. I don't think they will trade him, but I think that they'll be open to at least exploring it, and they'll let the Marner camp know that they are, because that's in my belief, Peter. Marner doesn't want to go anywhere, but if the Leafs start saying we're open to trading you, then that might be a shot across the bow to him. You
think they might be open to trading him? Like, do you think that's really where this ends up? That they
no, I think they will use that as a means of showing the Marner camp that they mean business. It's like, if you don't at least be reasonable in terms of your contract talks, all I've heard the last couple days is, well, he still wants what Matthews is getting. You're not getting what Matthews is getting. It's not happening.
It might, but we don't know. What the issue is I don't think Kyle Dubas can trade him. Who's going to go and upset the apple cart on their team now, 2 weeks before training camp, to acquire Mitch Marner and give up all those other assets that it's going to take to get him, and then have to deal with the contract negotiations? The threat isn't there. There's no threat, Mike.
Well, no. I'm not saying
they're married. They're married. They have to get a counselor to come in and sort the issues out.
I'm not saying it would happen now. I'm saying if it goes into the regular season, then I think the Leafs will start to say, okay, we at least have to explore the possibility of trading him and see what is out there. Right now, what they have said is, we're not interested in trading him. We believe he's part of this team. He's an integral part of this team. We don't want to move him. But if it gets to October and Darren Ferris and Paul Marner are still sticking to their tune of, well, we want what Austin Matthews got. Well, you're not going to get that. So, then the Leafs have to explore other options. And I don't know if they'll act on it, but I think that they'll look at it.
I just think right now, agents have told guys, be prepared not to go to camp. So they're not. And while camp's rolling on, everybody's just going to do nothing. And I think you'll roll into a couple of preseason games and everybody's going to do nothing.
Right.
And then I think there will be some discussion before the season starts. Mm-hmm. But again, if everybody plays this stalemate game and everybody's waiting for the other guy to sign and everybody's agent saying, well, wait, because we want to see what this guy's getting, then it's possible they're all going to go through the start of the season. Like, if everybody has to wait for somebody else, that could happen.
Right. Now, Ross, you had something on the KHL and statistics that they're doing.
I did. I find it interesting, and it's probably a little disappointing that they get to be the first league that goes with the smart puck with the real-time stats. I mean, if anybody watches this show, we've been pushing for this forever, right? And I think the NHL is going to start to use it this year. I don't know to what degree, but the KHL is using it. And so here's what it's doing for them. Besides being able to put out a press release that says, hey, we're using it, they've got heat maps. They've got, miles per hour on shots. They've got face-off statistics, which I think is really great because I'm a guy that likes to know face-off statistics, but more, look, you can get them off the box score. But now they have graphs that look a lot nicer than if I just want to get it off the box score. They also have, completion rates, traffic in front of the net. That's part of the heat map. Travel distance for players, fastest skaters. Mm-hmm. All of these things, I think, add to the broadcast. And, Peter, if we wanted to get to why is Sportsnet having problems, well, I'm sure Sportsnet pushed, or maybe they didn't, I don't know, for this to be a part of their broadcast because this is something that fans would definitely be interested in. Now, some of the older fans, though, got upset because at the All-Star game when they were doing some of this, like the names got in the way. But, there's an easy fix for that. I think that was just because it was the first time and it was clunky. But there's an easy fix for that. But, Peter, don't you think that this is like the easiest way to improve a broadcast?
Absolutely. Give people more that they can chew on and enjoy. It's easy peasy. Do it. Like, don't complicate it. It's not hard. And, bravo for the KHL for getting this done and moving on with it. Right. Yeah. I think, we know what's coming in terms of, the NHL's announced it and stuff. How they package it is going to be everything.
Right.
If they go down the road of what they did with, what's their face, who did the data stuff on the website.
SAP.
Sorry?
SAP.
It's going to flop in the worst way. There's a big term used in a lot of industries right now in terms when you're doing customer engagement. So it's customer experience and how you provide people with access to data. They need people who are not necessarily data scientists. That's getting the data and figuring out what to do with it. They need people who are visualization masters who can give you ways to present the data and make it palatable so people aren't overwhelmed by it. How you package it and show it and present it is going to be everything.
And we don't have a date on this yet. All they said was last year's All-Star game. They're debuting it this year, but we don't even have a date on it.
Yeah, we don't have anything.
And it would help to have a website that doesn't crash when you try to pull up face-off data or goaltender data. Like, I don't know how many times I was doing an article during the summer where I had to go to the NHL website for statistics. And when you went into more concentrate or more narrow-minded statistics, like when you had to go to a sub-statistic and you clicked on it and the website crashed. It's not exactly friendly to media members or to fans if they're interested in that kind of maneuver.
I hope it debuts at the start of the season. It's a great thing to show up on the Jumbotron in between periods too. Show up the 5 fastest skaters in the game. Show up the 5 guys that have taken up, the most real estate in the game. Show the best face-off guys in the game, and show those, all the graphs and stuff. People would love that.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Our preview is we're starting alphabetically with the Anaheim Ducks. An interesting team to look at because it's my belief they're in a sort of a reset here. Maybe not a full rebuild because they have a lot of contracts that are, guys like Getzlaf who are still, able players, but are long in the tooth and probably at the not sunset of their career, but approaching it. Now, the Ducks were 35, 37, and 10 last year, 80 points, only scored 199 goals had a minus 52 goal differential, which is surprising because because Gibson played fantastic last year until he had some injury problems later on in the year. Russ, I think that the big problem with the Ducks, now we know they bought out Corey Perry. Kessler is probably not going to play the rest of his career. He's got a few years left in his contract. That's probably going to be an LTIR situation. But with this team, the road to success is going to be based on the young guys in their organization and how quick it takes them to acclimate themselves to the NHL. Sam Steele, Troy Terry, those young players, if they can, and Steele had a good year in the American Hockey League. If they step up and play well, I don't think they're going to contend for a wild card spot this year, but I think it would probably be by next year with some other additions, they could be a team that could challenge for a playoff spot.
I mean, with all due respect to like Ryan Getzlaf, who's only 33, he had 48 points.
Right.
But at least
he was the leading scorer.
At least the year before, when I was getting on him a little bit, he ended up with 61. You go look at Mark Messier at 33, and he was scoring a lot more. I remember for a while, Getzlaf was drawing some comparisons. He's got to have a resurgence, and it's not unreasonable to think that he should. Maybe someone like Sam Steele does make that happen for him. Raquel's their best goal scorer, which isn't a bad thing, but it's not a great thing. They don't really have a sniper anymore. Last year, they had crumbling infrastructure. They had, good goaltending, decent defense. It's not enough. This league now, you've got to be able to put up some scoring too. And so we'll see if this year guys like Steele really add to it. I don't know, man. I mean, Nick Ritchie's got to add to it. He's only 24, so maybe he can. I mean, Ritchie only had 9 goals. Like, he had 14 2 years ago. He's got to somehow power himself and get a few more goals. You just start looking at this team and you look at all the players, Silverberg is not even that old. He's 28. He had 24 goals. So that's a good year out of him. He's got to keep that going now. He's one of their best players. It's definitely lacking offensive ability, though.
And Peter, one of their strong areas for years has been their blue line. They've seemed to find gems and promote them up. And now, if you look, they traded Vatanen to New Jersey. They lost Shea Theodore to Vegas. Last year, they trade Brandon Montour to the Sabres. They get Brendan Gooley back. But now you got Fowler, Lindholm, and Manson. And the second half of their defense is Brendan Gooley, Michael Del Zotto, and a Corbinian Holzer. And Russ can say about Jakob Larson, who he's a pretty good defensive prospect.
Pretty good.
But the depth of their blue line has been weaned the last couple of years. And now I think it's, the top half is pretty good. The bottom half is not that great.
No, and there's just a lot going on with the issues that the Anaheim Ducks have. And the fact is they're wasting away the joy of John Gibson and what comes with him, right? Like, I mean, this guy, he should win the Vezina. I mean, to quote a classic Don Cherry line from one of the early Rock and Sock'em hockeys, the guy faces more rubber than a skunk on the Trans-Canada. I mean, it's unbelievable. And, he could single-handedly keep them somehow near contention should all the other things fix themselves in some way. That's Gibson. But yeah, they're a team that's going to require years of transition because of the guys that are close. What's that?
The problem is, Peter, they have a lot of guys that are close. Guys like Max Jones, he's sort of in between. Josh Mahora, close. Could be a really
That's a great way of saying it, Russ.
Yeah. Comtois, got all the tools. He's he played in 3 leagues last year. He played in the NHL, the AHL, and the Q. You know what I mean? So it's like they have these guys that aren't quite there. The ones that are there are good. There's nothing great, and it's a lot to put on Gibson. It is.
Yep.
Yeah, the workload that Gibson's going to face, and Gibson has sort of been the Western Conference version of Matt Murray in the sense that he's had injuries almost every year of his career. They bring back Ryan Miller, and he's a really good backup, but he can only play 25 to 30 games at the most. They're going to need Gibson to be really, really good if they're going to make the playoffs this year, which I don't think is realistic. I think this year is a year where. And you can touch on this, Russ, because I know you've been a critic of him over the last few years. This is a year where they're going to have Dallas Eakins get a lot out of these young players that he coached in San Diego. And, San Diego had a pretty decent year in the American Hockey League last year, but I think the development of the Steels and the Comtois and the Terrys are going to be extremely important for them if they want to turn things around in the next year or two. If it doesn't happen, then this organization's in trouble.
Yeah, this is where preseason is going to be very important for this team. I know there's fans that say, preseason's kind of a waste, but not for the young players. And for a team like this, if they could grab 2 young players because Aikens unlocks what they need to do, then that would be huge for them. That's about the only chance they have to make the playoffs. The only chance.
We're not getting a ton of questions in the chat, so I'll end on this. I saw this and John Tortorella is always good for a comment or two, and he was interviewed by Aaron Portzline of The Athletic and was asked about the free agent departures from the Blue Jackets, and he said, I quote, "I respect them all, but I don't want to hear I want to win when it's right fucking here. I respect them, but I'm really pissed. It was right there where we were really progressing." This guy doesn't sound like he's really happy that all these guys left.
No.
And he made similar comments about Zach Werenski and him being in a contract impasse, and it's like I'm not part of management, but this really sucks. And it almost sounds to me like Tortorella is bemoaning the fact that he doesn't have as much talent to work with as he did last year, and he knows that if they have a really bad year, that his head is probably on the chopping block.
Yeah, there's no question. The pressure's on Torts. I mean.
Should it be look what you did with them last year.
It is, Peter. It is.
Maybe it shouldn't be, Peter, but it's going to be, even though he signed an extension just like Kekalainen did.
Yeah.
He's going to be the one. He's going to be the one fielding the questions from the reporters in Columbus when they lose 4 or 5 games in a row. And, and we know, I know Torts has been more calm and more philosophical in his days in Columbus, but at a certain point, he's probably going to turn and say, "Hey, Brooksy, kiss my butt," or something, like that. And he'll getting a New York flashback. And he has some talent to work with. Dubois is a really good young player. They got some players, but when you lose, and this is the problem I had with where they went. They went for it all. They shouldn't have gone for it all. They kept Panarin. They traded for Duchesne. They had Dzingel. They had Bobrovsky. They all walked away for nothing. And what did they sign? They signed Gustav Nyquist.
Yeah.
They don't even have as close. They're not even close to being the same level of talent that they were last year. And if I had to make predictions on playoff spots in the East, Columbus is not one of the 8 teams.
No, they're in a tough spot. Torts is in a tough spot. Yeah. It's similar to really what's going on with Golden State in the NBA. Like, players just left. And when players just leave, you can't even necessarily blame the GM on that. So, unfortunately, Torts will take most of the brunt of it.
Right. All right. Good show, guys.
One more thing.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I wanted to mention that Alex Ovechkin's got his own cereal now, and it's I guess Giant Supermarkets has it. It's pretty funny because he's throwing cereal up and he's catching it, and then you'll see the outtake where he doesn't catch it, but they made the crunching sound anyhow because they wanted to make it seem like he could catch it every time in his mouth. What interested me is cereal boxes in this country are very rarely hockey players. Like, I have baseball ones. There's, Wheaties will almost never put on a hockey player. The last time I could really think of an athlete that was a hockey player outside of the Olympics was Wayne Gretzky that was really on cereal boxes here in the U.S. In Canada, it's a lot more common. And the fact that Ovechkin is on one now, again, this is regional. So, and when it's regional, it's a little different too. But this is something where it just shows you how big of a star he is in that market, especially. And I think that really says something, because I've searched and I can't find anybody in the last like 10, 15 years. Even Crosby, I can't find on a cereal box. Now, maybe someone in Pittsburgh did one, but can't find one.
I'm struck. I know for a fact that the U.S. Olympic team in '80 was on the Wheaties box.
Correct.
But after that, I mean, who was the shootout hero? St. Louis. Oshie.
I don't think he was on it. I think the women's team was on it, but outside of an Olympic situation, I can't find anybody in this country as a hockey player that was on it.
Gretzky was on it for Canada.
Yeah, Gretzky.
Yeah, right. And I'm sure Crosby probably was after 2010.
Yeah, Crosby probably was in the Pittsburgh market, and I just can't find a picture. But it's an amazing thing. It really is, and it shows you that Alex Ovechkin, where his place is already in sort of sports. It's not even the NHL anymore. In Washington, if you think about it, he and Max Scherzer are probably the most identifiable players in that market. Nobody from the football team, nobody from the Redskins, because they've been irrelevant. Really, nobody from basketball. I mean, John.
Oh, yeah, the Wizards.
Yeah, the Wizards, forget it.
I couldn't name you one player on the Wizards.
So just an amazing right. Isn't that an amazing thing that really Ovechkin is one of their most identifiable athletes for sure?
And final note here for about a former Ovechkin teammate, a former Capital, and a fellow Russian. I was taken aback by the fact that 35-year-old Alexander Semin was named a team captain of a team in the KHL.
Yeah.
I mean, was there a shortage of leadership on that team? Because I have to say, Semin is not exactly my idea of a leader. But
this is one of those situations probably where they give him the captaincy, hoping that better things will happen, because everybody who gets Alexander Semin on their team hopes for better things. And like Peter always says, hope's not a plan, and usually Semin does not come through.
I hope they didn't sign him to a multi-year deal.
Well, what did he? I'm going to look him up. How many points did he have last year?
I don't know, but we'll talk about it tomorrow. For Peter Tessier, for Russ Cohen.
41 points, 19 goals. That's not terrible.
There you go. I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.